And the money which
I will help you in declarations.
Yeah.
We're not talking about I will talk about declarations.
So they, declared during this, months. They declared a lot of assets. So, and these assets, we have to be focused. We can invest. We can invest in, for instance, agriculture. Ukraine in top 3 countries in the world in terms of agriculture. And if you combine these 2 main assets, land and human capital, so it's new industry, AgTech, they call it AgTech, technology for agriculture. And Ukraine could be a champion on this, worldwide champion, not just only here in this region, but worldwide champion, because we have a great developers, programmers, etc. So, and talking about strategy about National Bank of Ukraine, so they have to be focused on creating, to support something, to support this industry. Not only, because as I know, during 25 years, so we always supported banking system. And then bank evaporated without founders of the banks, without billions of dollars which evaporated with banks during these 25 years. And started with Bank Ukraina, so a lot of Delta, a lot of banks just evaporated with managers, founders, and with our money. So my company, just only my company, paid a couple of millions of dollars for this, just evaporated with bankers. And nobody in prison. Nobody, these bankers in prison. So it's about, destroy something. But create something means we have to be focused, create special program for innovation company, for small and medium businesses, because money which coming from EU to our state institutions, so with quite reasonable rate, then it's no way for us to receive this money. So no way at all for normal businesses. So that's about strategy. Strategy is about Ukraine, not about just some artificial piece of paper with some portrait inside. So it's about real economy. So, and in this field, we have no strategy.
Ultimately, I think this is a national security issue for Ukraine as well. With the potential, with the great degree of potential there is here for inflation, that could be very high. Or if there's something like a collapse of the banking system or further collapse of it, it could do so much to destroy the country's future.
National currency.
The national currency. This is a serious issue. And the fact that this isn't being looked into more, I think, is worrisome. If I was Russia, what would I think? It's very hard to invest in something like a war. War is very expensive. But to have your banks have such a major role within the economy and the ability to manipulate that, which manipulates the entire country, could actually destroy the economy. That's much more of an effective weapon. Much more effective weapon. And I would really be curious to see what the country's plan is to work itself out of the situation that it's currently in.
You're absolutely right. And as I mentioned, one of the main problems is that, in fact, the National Bank is helping the Russian Federation to influence on the country through the influence on the financial market. And that's absolutely, you are absolutely right. That's the question of the national security. And that should be solved. That's why I'm so shocked when I didn't hear any word from the president about the situation, from the head of the National Bank. She's only saying that that's all of the rumors, and I will not react on that. So she's the head of the National Bank. And as we mentioned, Yevgeny talked about some strategies and some investments. How can anyone invest in Ukraine when the head of the National Bank, she is storing her assets in the US dollars in cash? That is absolutely, that's the strong signal to everyone. You shouldn't invest into the economy. You shouldn't put your money to the banks. You should store it in cash in your flats, and that's...
She was one of the only ones who kept most of her money in bank accounts and not in cash.
Because you know something we don't.
Most of the people who made declarations, who declared large amounts of money, declared it, the majority of their money in cash. She had the majority of her money in bank accounts.
Not the
extreme offender, definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
No, but she did not have it in national currency.
Yes.
Okay, but I think...
She had it in different currencies, yeah.
In US dollars.
This is a developing
US
market thing. I mean, it grabs attention, but I think you'd find a similar pattern in a lot of developing
with
countries.
minor currencies,
But that's an
developing
absolutely
markets.
strong signal to everyone. Why you should ask the common person or the small businessman that he should invest all his efforts in Ukrainian national currency, in Ukrainian national economy, when the head of the national bank is sending such a strong signal that the Ukrainian currency is not stable, but she's responsible for that. She is the main issue, the main goal of the national bank, according to Ukrainian constitution, is the stability of the national currency. She is responsible for that. Yeah. And she is making the steps like...
It doesn't look good. It certainly doesn't look good. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's I agree. That's not illegal, but that's a strong signal.
Let's prioritise. I think this point about the Russian influence is a far bigger issue.
Absolutely.
A far bigger issue in terms of you control the currency, you control the economy, you control the country. It is a high... If we talk about hybrid war, it's about a bigger weapon as you could have, and that does require some very cold and serious investigation now. I'll be interested to see whether the president or the national bank comes out in the coming days, and if they don't say anything, again, the communications issue you mentioned.
Believe me,
Peter, I'll give you an example. I mean, it's a bad example. Pavel Sheremet.
Yes, another example. Yeah, this is another alarm.
FBI was here, according to the president. The German intelligence participates in investigations, and we still don't know a fact, a word, nothing.
Oh, Maidan,
so imagine
the killings. We could go to that as well.
So I don't think I don't think that.
I would go far. I would go back even as far. You know, if we want to go all the way back, I would talk about the Yushchenko poisoning as well as a classic example where there was a total failure to achieve justice.
But the reason for that
damaged credibility enormously.
But the reason for that is the absence of the professionalism. That's the absence of the professionalism and the absence of the political will to do that. Well, two issues. And by the way, talking about the head of the national bank, I couldn't say maybe, I don't know, I'm not a professional in that. I'm not an expert in the banking. But as for me, that's a little bit different to be an investment banker and to be the head of the National Bank of Ukraine. That's a little bit different. And you see, you could be a brilliant investment banker, but that doesn't mean that you could be professionally the head of the National Bank. And she has all the team like the representatives of the investment banking sphere. But some of them, yes, some of them are bankers, let's say clear bankers. But normally, you should appoint a professional over there who could develop a strategy, who could think about the country, and who could deal with that.
But it was not just symbolic. I mean, what Yevgen said. In 25 years, you had a number of banks were born, then disappeared, people lost money, no one is in prison. Those people who, with all the money and assets, they just left. And no one investigated.
Ukraine's not alone in not putting bankers in jail. I think that's a fairly common trend throughout the Western world as well, isn't it? I think Iceland is the only country that goes in for that.
By the way, in the Iceland there was a political responsibility for that by the prime minister who resigned.
Yeah.
Who resigned?
The bankers went to prison, and the economy boomed.
Yes, but he resigned. Yeah. There was a political responsibility for that. Yes, someone should have a responsibility.
But it's an exception. That's why we're all familiar, because it's so unusual. Bankers, as a rule, do not get sent to prison.
What do you think? We don't have that much time left. It's more for Ukrainians than for Europeans or Americans. The question, is Ukraine going to get visa-free travel in Europe, or is it impossible in the near future? To be very honest.
My instinct would be yes. I think it will happen.
Could I ask you when? But not be a Ukrainian president saying that tomorrow.
It's done. Yeah, every 2 weeks is the breakthrough. No, I think it'll come, but I think it will have a lot of strings attached, so to speak. A lot of get-out clauses and a lot of additional. It won't just be simply visa-free. You're welcome. But I think that the European Union has to do something, and this will be the something that they will do. But it will take time. I mean, they gave it to Moldova, for example, and it hasn't, you know, the sky didn't fall in, Moldovans didn't all leave Moldova, where the situation is not enormously better than Ukraine. So I think there is a precedent as well. So my instinct would be yes.
I think not. I don't think it's going to be in the near future. I mean, if I look at it, it's another point of leverage for the Europeans, which they don't have otherwise. It's one of the few things they can hold over Ukraine still that they can use to try to get something in return, such as real corruption reform or something like that. And I think everything else that's going on that we don't see publicly is probably going on. I mean, why it's taking so long, why it's dragging out, I think it's part of leverage for Europe.
No, they've played their cards in terms of using it as leverage. They stated very clearly today that Ukraine has met all the criteria. If they want to not give Ukraine visa-free travel, they've got to come up with some other kind of excuse, and it's getting increasingly difficult for them to come up with more excuses. So I think that those in the European Union who want to give Ukraine visa-free travel are sort of winning, and I think it probably will happen.
I think just to follow up on that, I think it's interesting as well to see, you very rarely see Ukrainian politicians and commentators so aggressive about the issue with Europe. They're usually much more polite and diplomatic, but now we're seeing people increasingly saying, come on, give it to us. We've done our part. We've done what we said we would do. Now it's up to you, and you know, we're not happy about it.
Evgen, how important for Ukraine is visa-free travel to Europe?
First of all, I think nowadays it's more a little bit like symbolic issue. Because 3 years ago, people was in Maidan. It was about the question to join EU. And frankly speaking, we have this corruption, we have a lot of bad stuff, but EU needs Ukraine. Because first of all, we are talking about competition between US, EU, China, Russia is trying to do something, worldwide competition. And EU needs this new energy, human capital. So definitely EU has to support this. Not support concrete president or concrete prime minister, etc., but our people. It's very bad story. 3 years we are talking about this visa issue. We have to have motivation. Now that I'm talking about normal people, normal guys. And I think it's some European leaders, they do not understand this. Do not understand because they do not support concrete person. So it's one story, but they do not support people who was in Maidan, who gave this life for European values. So, and I think it's more symbolic issue because nowadays it's not very difficult to have a visa. It's not a big issue for businessmen. It's no issue at all. But it's more symbolic question. And of course, for our government, for our president, so it's a demonstration of inefficient, service. Because we are talking many months, years about this and no result. So that's my feedback.
I think that Ukraine could do more on the symbolic front in order to promote the same sort of Euro enthusiasm that we saw in Ukraine in 2013 and the beginning of 2014. The other day, it was the anniversary of the start of Maidan. I saw one European flag on Maidan. There was a demonstration organized mostly by pretty extreme right-wing groups, a lot of Pravi sector flags, a lot of own flags. And those are the pictures that are shown on the TV because those are the pictures the news agencies get. They want to do a little thing about the anniversary of Maidan. They see those pictures there and not European flags. I think if Ukraine has given itself a Ministry of Information and that kind of thing and wants to care about its image in Europe, you could organize some kind of cultural event, a concert, some kind of thing to mark the anniversary of the start of Maidan that people would come to who would be pro-European Ukrainians and not, right-wing Ukrainians in Pravi sector and people like that.
People are really disappointed right now because of the economical situation in the country. And people are much more thinking about their everyday needs, like how to find a job, how to find some salary, and they are not thinking about some ideological things like a European vector of development. And talking about the free travels to Europe, yes, people want that. People are thinking about that. But you see, many of them are not able to travel to Europe because they have no normal income to cover all the expenses for their travels. And that's the biggest question. As far as I saw the numbers of the research,